What's up? How goes it? Welcome to the live stream. Hanging out on a Wednesday night. How are you? Where are you in the world? Why, thank you very much. I grew it just for you. That's not true. It grows on my face naturally, and I am lazy. Garden Grove, California. Is that in the LA area? The OC, yeah. The OC is definitely a nice place, or at least I think the conception of it is that it's super nice everywhere, and people think of that old TV show that was on back in the day. But I think there are some areas where it's not just mansions on every block, if I'm not mistaken. Right in the middle of all the liberals. Well, you know, many of them are well-meaning. So how'd you find out about the channel? Okay, all right. So what's it like being not a super progressive person in Orange County? Welcome, whomever else is in the stream. Definitely leave a comment. This is an Ask Me Anything, so I want to take your questions about the Women's March and all that. Right now I'm talking to someone from Orange County, and Cena44. It's hard out here. Yeah, you're arguing with people daily. What are some of the arguments that have come up? What flip-flops are the best brand? Yeah, that's one thing that I've seen a few times here in New York. The calling out of women, just solely on the fact that they're women. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. That's kind of you to say. The Women's March videos were awesome. Yeah, I tried to have a good time this time. If you've watched any of my content previous, I essentially only had the hard-hitting conversations with these people. This time I just wanted to go out there and have fun and try and see if I could get people to loosen up a little bit. And, you know, a lot of the people I made fun of, it's not like I intended on, you know, I didn't go out there to, like, try and hurt people's feelings. And I think most of the fun that I was having was, you know, not from a bad place. And I tried to touch on the social issues too. You're half white, so you haven't quite seen your white privilege yet. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, white privilege. I mean, I think I get where the idea comes from, especially if you're black and you see the history in this country with Jim Crow laws and then slavery previous, and you see that there's a lot of white people in power, so you put two and two together without going into the facts a bit more, and you end up with something like attributing white privilege. I think it's more of a economic situation than it is a racial or ethnic situation. Although it does most certainly play a factor, but I would say less on a structural and institutional level and more on a societal sort of individual level. But yeah, tell me more about Orange County. I used to live in LA. I lived in LA for quite a while, 6 years. I don't know if that sounds tuned. I'm trying to think of like some California songs, like maybe Red Hot Chili Peppers or something. I'm also curious to know how you ended up not being a liberal in Orange County. 25 minutes from the beach and loving it. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, while you're typing that out, I definitely want to ask people's opinions. I know it's kind of difficult where I'm like talking to the camera and you can hear me and all I have to do is use my words, but you have to type everything out. I'm trying to revive that ancient art of typing. To be honest, I was a liberal. I voted for Obama first term. Blah blah. More you educated yourself, you realized what you were missing. Cool. So what prompted your views to change? What are some maybe influential figures or maybe videos or books or something that you read that sort of changed the way you perceive the world? I'm curious to know that. Wow, your dad was hardcore Trump at first and you didn't see it? Wow. And so this is a recent sort of switch, huh? That makes sense. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are certainly realizing that there's something afoot or amiss with the demands of the demands against the Trump administration and so on and so forth, and that if you do open your ears a little bit and allow for dissent and the possibility that you're wrong, you know, eventually you'll get there. And that's one thing that I want to promote with the channel. And I think I've tried to do that a little bit. And of course, I can probably seem a bit arrogant or whatever occasionally, but you know, I'm only human. But what I really want to promote is is skepticism. So, and the idea that like nothing is above scrutiny, and that sometimes it's important to even just question. Sometimes it's important to question your own beliefs more than anything else. He didn't even really defend him. Babe, read between the lines. Yeah. You know, again, I've said this before. Like, I'm not a Trump fan in that I'm gonna bandwagon behind everything he does. I think there's a lot to say about what reasons why he shouldn't be in the White House, and I still don't think he should be president. But it doesn't mean that I can't support certain policies and understand that many people who voted for him just wanted to throw a Trump-sized wrench into the corrupt system, especially when you had one of the most corrupt people, bribable people, in Hillary Clinton being the essentially the other choice. And people were kind of tired of it. They were tired of the political correctness. Many people were tired of not being able to speak out about like radical Islam and so on. I was certainly one of them. A lot of people were concerned about borders and sovereignty, and having sort of control over the immigration here in this country. And it's nothing against. It might be for some people, but for me, it's not. Advocating relatively strict immigration laws is not about the skin color of whomever's coming in. It's about the fact that we only recently in the past 80 years or whatever since FDR did we set up a welfare state. Did we set up or welfare in general? Did we set up these social benefits? So when people talk about immigration in the 1800s, it's not the same as it is now. Now we have taxpayers. Now we have a social safety net for people, and there are some people that haven't paid into that system that do come here, and many of them are good people. Listen, if I was from what Trump might call a shithole, but what I'd rather call a third world country or just a more impoverished place, and I heard that I could go somewhere and just get schooling and healthcare and food stamps or whatever it is. I think food stamps might be a little more difficult for a non-citizen, but of course I'm going to do it. So I don't necessarily even blame the people that are coming here. It's just, unfortunately, countries that have a lower GDP, where their net immigration is low, or very few people are moving there, more people are leaving, so on and so forth. You're generally, on average, going to have cultures that produce more criminals. All you have to do is go to places like Detroit or the south side of Chicago in America, certain parts of Los Angeles, just the major cities where poverty is more of an issue, and you're going to find higher crime rates. It's pretty simple, especially violent crimes, drug crimes, blah, blah, blah. What did I think of the shithole comment? Listen, this is exactly what I think. I don't want to have a president that uses rhetoric like that. I mentioned in one of my videos to someone I was talking to about the subject that there are presidents past that undoubtedly, and in fact, if I do a bit of digging, I guarantee I could find some examples that have said pretty, provocative and uncouth things behind closed doors. If Trump had come out and said that at a speech, it would be one thing, but this was in private. I still am not going to defend the comment itself, but one thing that I would like more people on the left to understand, and I'm a center-left libertarian. When I take the little political litmus test or whatever the fuck it's called, that's what I come out as. Like, to the left of center, more libertarian, less authoritarian, yada yada. But one thing that people like about Trump is that he is not politically correct. He's unhinged. He'll say what's on his mind, and unfortunately, people are okay with that in lieu of I don't like his rhetoric. I wish we had someone that was presidential. But when you have year after year of the political correctness muddling truth and obfuscating what's so obviously true to so many people, i.e. Obama and radical Islam, if you ask me, you're of course going to have people that revolt against that with a deep attractedness to someone who is the complete opposite of politically correct. So I don't want our president saying things like that, but I think that actions speak louder than words, and policy is more important. And I think that if I give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe what he's thinking, and this is what I hope he's thinking, does it make sense to be letting in more people from certain places than other places? especially some places where education is much more poor and crime rates are higher. So we have plenty of low-skill workers in this country already. And when I say low skill, I don't mean these people are bad people. And that's another thing I'd like to point out that I hope Trump didn't mean when he said call these places shitholes. It doesn't mean these people are bad people. It just means that if they're coming here, maybe more often than not, I don't know the exact numbers, but you're going to have people that aren't necessarily benefiting the country as a whole. So, you know, I just wish he would come out on a podium and say, "Hey, everybody, this is not what I just want you to know that people of Haiti aren't necessarily bad people. Some of them are good, just like anywhere in the world. But the chances of them, you know, like we already have worked into our immigration system benefits for high-skilled people who have skills that apply to the job market here that are in demand. If you're a freaking brain surgeon, you're going to have a pretty good chance of getting into this country." I think you just asked a question. Let's see here. Has anyone ever tried to fight you on the streets? I watched Owen from InfoWars. He got spit on. No one has spit on me. I also don't really do what Owen Schroyer does. I've seen some of his videos. Some of them I like, but he tends to raise his voice and get a bit heated when he's out there, and I guess I understand that in some ways, but I try and kind of fly under the radar until it's obvious that the guns are out and I've got to stand my ground. But has anyone ever tried to fight me? So the first thing that I ever covered on this channel, almost a year ago, I think in January of last year, I went to Gavin McInnes's talk at NYU. So he went down there and he was going to give a speech, and on his way in, he was pepper sprayed and all sorts of stuff. And so I didn't have any problems there, but if you go back and watch these videos, there's some of my first videos on the channel. They're really poor quality, and as you can tell, not much has changed on the channel. But if you watch some of the videos, you'll see a few characters. You may see a few characters, one in particular, who decided to provoke me at the next thing that I went to cover, which he was also attending. I think to me he seemed like a bum. Frankly, he seemed like a squatter type of dude who maybe does a lot of drugs, who thinks he's revolting against the system, and so he's out there, trying to show how fucking badass he is. Yeah, you're gonna watch some of my old ones at your risk, at your peril. But at the next thing I went to, I think it was this Not My President's Day rally at Columbus Circle near Central Park. This one guy and then a couple of other of his goons were there, and they started saying something like "punch a Nazi in the face," and they started saying it very, very close to me as to provoke me. And that was probably the closest thing. So no one's ever tried to really fight me physically. I'm not gonna brag or anything, but I think one-on-one I do decently with a few chaps, if you will, a few different types of people. But I think the most worried I felt covering any of these things was actually in Paris. So it wasn't, there weren't any direct threats against me or anything, but I was in Paris, and it was the 14th of July. I forgot how to say the number in French, but the 14th of Juillet, I think it's pronounced. It's Bastille Day. We call it Bastille Day. But the day, it was the 13th of July, and the day before, on the 13th of July, Trump went to meet with Macron, the French president, and me and Tim Pool, Luke Rudkowski was there from We Are Change. We went to cover the big march, and there were a few sort of scary, iffy moments where there were very few police at one point, and all of a sudden, probably, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40 Antifa type masked, all black French kids, people, men, guys, girls, whatever, started rushing this one cop car and throwing bottles and stuff, and it got a bit ruckus. But that and just other instances, similar instances, like in Barcelona, I showed up right after a bunch of cops shot a bunch of dudes with rubber bullets. That was pretty shitty. You can watch my Barcelona video about that, where basically I got this one guy essentially like crying on camera, and he had his shirt off and he was showing the marks of where the rubber bullets hit him. And this was in Barcelona, and he was like crying, and all these people were there, like CNN, the Spanish version of CNN was there. It was fucking crazy. But other than that, no one's really tried to physically fight me. I'm probably about 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" on a good day. And, I weigh about 350, so there's not a lot of dudes. I'm also a black belt in most of the martial arts, so don't try. What made you start the YouTube channel and get it out there? I love it. Oh, that's so nice of you. I'll watch the videos. I wish I could be out there. 6'8", yeah, about 6'8", 6'9" on a good day. Yeah. You choose to believe that. No, I'm not that big. Anyway. I started making the channel after Trump was elected because, first of all, I thought it was funny. When Trump was elected, I started laughing. Literally, I started laughing. And it kind of just turned the whole system on its head. Here I was watching the election, thinking that Hillary was going to win, and I could just go back to my life, and there'd be more drone strikes in the Middle East, and the borders would open up more, and blah 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 blah. But I couldn't believe it when it happened, so I started laughing, and then you started seeing the blowback. You started seeing the anger and the vitriol and the remorse and all this stuff from a lot of people, and some of it I sympathize with. Trump is not a pleasant guy. I wouldn't mind hanging out at a bar with him, but I certainly don't want to take him around my parents or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I started seeing this backlash, and then I started seeing all these protests planned, and I thought to myself, I really should go out there and talk to people. I've been raised in Los Angeles, New York City, and places like Florida and Texas, which are a little bit more conservative, and I lived in Seattle for a while as well. So I feel like I have a very mixed, some would say semi-balanced political, viewpoint. I just figured I'd go out there and try and talk to people and see what their thoughts are. And then the more I did it, the more I realized, oh my God, some of these people are kind of delusional. And if you think about politics as a pendulum, the momentum has just fucking really done damage to the left. And I think it was similar to the conservatives, like maybe during the Clinton era, Clinton 1 Bill, and then maybe, and definitely during the Bush administration, people would look at conservatives and they think, oh, you're a country bumpkin, you're this and you're that. And there are some of them, of course, but I think the pendulum has swung the other way, where now a lot of people are looking at the left and they're like, oh my God, what kind of nonsense is that? Yo, what is up? We got some more people here. Walter White, hey, what's up, man? Oh, I like your profile pic there. Thanks for your videos, man. They're informative, and I can be funny at times. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's awesome, man. Leave a thumbs up on this video, anyone who's watching, by the way. And I did make a point to plug my PayPal. Not to seem desperate or anything, but paypal.me/Beacom of Light if anyone feels like donating whatever. Like I said, just watching is enough. But I appreciate it. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I really appreciate the kind words, guys. Greetings from Germany. Guten Nacht, at least for me over here. Maybe Guten Morgen for you, since it's different time zone over there. Where in Germany are you? That's cool. From Chicago, what up? Chi-Town. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so awesome, man. You guys are really great. If anyone has a song request, I play a little bit. I only know a few things, but I'm also curious to know what you guys are thinking. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the hashtag Where Is She, but I recommend checking it out. So In Iran right now, there's quite a bit going on there's quite a bit going on in Iran. Okay, maybe not the appropriate time to sing or anything, but I don't know if you guys are aware of this stuff, but there is essentially there are droves of people in Iran right now that are revolting. If you've watched any of my videos, I mentioned like 1,000 times in my latest videos the Women's March, but there are a lot of people revolting against the Islamic theocratic government. And there was this famous photo going around. If you guys Google it, you'll see it. It's a woman standing on top of some sort of structure during a protest, and she has taken off her hijab, the Muslim headscarf, put it on a stick, and is holding it up. And in Islam, it's illegal to, the government has mandated that you wear the hijab in public at all times, and you can't show certain amounts of hair and blah, 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 blah. Well, this woman has been arrested. Vida Mohammed, there you go. There you go, you know your stuff. She's been arrested, and this was in December. So I don't know when exactly she was arrested yet, but she was arrested. She has a 20-month-old child. She's 31 years old. And no one knows where she is. No one knows. I mean, the public does not know. For the few people that are watching this live stream, and anyone who watches it later, hashtag where is she and start looking into this, because this woman has essentially been taken away from her child and locked away, and very few people know where she is, if any, for taking off a fucking headscarf in public. Many of these women in Iran are arrested and beaten. I hate to get too serious with you guys, with this hangout, I just want to have fun, but it's especially disconcerting to me when I go out to the Women's March. And of course there are problems for people in this country, and there are problems for women and so on. But I didn't see anyone, with the exception of, in retrospect on social media, talk about what happens to women in the Middle East. In fact, and as you guys know, you see over and over again, people holding up this artist's name is Shepard Fairey. First of all, what a fucking name on this artist. Anyway, holding up this poster of this woman in a hijab, and it's the American flag. And I'm thinking to myself, I understand the meaning behind it. I understand that people want to be inclusive and welcoming and caring and so on, and I get that part. But what they don't understand, that the reason that what they say is conjecture when it comes to the hijab, a half-truth, is that they don't understand the inherent reason for the hijab in the first place. It was created by men to cover up women so they don't entice the men. And if the men act on these feelings of being attracted to these women, then it's the woman's fault. That's why you see things like honor killings and stonings, at the worst, and at the least, just verbal scolding, real harassment, and with the exception of rape and stuff like that in this country. Sorry. Lately I've really enjoyed. What's up, Sydney? Hi. Lately I've really enjoyed your videos. Thanks for doing 5 parts on the Women's March. Oh, thank you, guys. Oh, that's so nice of you. I guess my question is a little vague, but can you give a background? Yeah, sure. I can give you a quick background. Hey, what's up, Sydney? Yep. You're mansplaining. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I set the sort of playbook on what to do if someone accuses you of mansplaining. Unless you're just being an asshole, then I'd rather whomever is accusing you of mansplaining just call you an asshole instead of, having to genderize it. That's like, there are plenty of women that fucking mansplain too. But quickly about the mansplaining, yeah, I don't know if I wrote the playbook necessarily because I had to have learned this somewhere, but you just kind of use their ammunition against them. So like, this woman came up to me when I was explaining a factual difference. The videos were cringing, Alex. Yeah, that's right. But I was explaining a factual difference to this woman, and this other lady. I don't want to misgender her. It was a woman who with short hair who was probably a lesbian. She came up to me. She said, "Are you mansplaining at the Women's March?" And then she started laughing all smug. And and I said, what do you mean mansplaining? And then she said, well, it's when people like you. And I said, what do you mean people like me? Now, obviously, I'm playing into her games. I don't give a fuck what she said, really, to be honest with you. But I said, what do you mean people like me? She said, well, a man. And I looked at her. I said, well, actually, excuse you, I identify as a woman. And she couldn't say anything. She probably knew I was full of shit, but she just had to say, well, okay. And then she walked away, and I went back to listening to this woman try and explain to me the very little knowledge she had on the sign with the woman in the American flag hijab. Anyway, you guys are awesome, man. I'm so, the channel's small at this point, but I'm really glad you guys are here and glad you're watching. Whether you're conservative, liberal, even if you're a fucking far left Maoist, or you're a super fascist, far right wing Nazi type. Actually, you know what? I'd prefer if Nazis and Maoists not watch the channel. I will say that. Unless you're open-minded enough to learn something, but I doubt you are if you're a Nazi or a Maoist. But, HH and go, it's sex apartheid. Yeah, man, it's kind of weird. I don't know. The attack helicopter identity was hilarious. Yeah, but back to hashtag where is she? I hope you guys spend the time, spend a little bit of time just letting people know what's going on in Iran right now. Which again doesn't take away from the problems here, but it's important that we sort of have a large scale scope of human rights in the world in general. And I saw so many vitriolic young people. I mean, we're talking like teenage kids here at the Women's March. And they don't have a fucking clue. And I can understand. I can sympathize. I can empathize. I can say, well, at one point I was a young teenager and maybe I thought the world was against me, or maybe I thought that America was the inherent evil in the world. And, I used to work for Greenpeace, and we can get into my background a little bit. As you mentioned, who was that? Who asked about that? Sydney. I worked for Greenpeace for a bit when I was like 20, 21. And, at that point, I don't think I really had a political identity necessarily. But, this was kind of I'm 29 now. So this was at the start of, this was maybe a little bit after the whole global warming sort of agenda. Not that I'm a climate change denier necessarily, but this is when it was being pushed really hard, by people like Al Gore. The Inconvenient Truth had come out. I think that was 2007. And that was right around the time that I was working for Greenpeace, and I was very anti-establishment. I remember one day I was skateboarding home from work, and I was slapping Greenpeace stickers on Starbucks windows because I thought Starbucks was evil. So the point I'm trying to make here is people's minds can change. I still think Starbucks is awful and their coffee sucks. And the amount of time people waste waiting online at Starbucks is ridiculous. But that's a little bit about my background. I grew up I became an adult in California. I learned how to play music and so on. Not worshiping me as transphobic. Entropic. Oh, cool. Explain the concept of entropy in the chat. I'm sure people will love that. By the way, if anyone wants to donate to my PayPal, God, I hate plugging it. But paypal.me/Beacom of Light would be awesome. I'm all over the place right now, but BBC article. Oh shit, BBC. But this lady in Iran, we gotta, people need to stay on top of that and figure out what's going on. Really scary stuff. And I was also talking with this girl earlier today about the opioid crisis in this country and how very few media outlets are covering that. I know Fox does probably more coverage on that than any other network, but let me know what you guys think about the sheer amount of people that are dying in this country. I mean, I think it's is it 60,000 a year, or is it a month or something? I mean, it's crazy. Opioid crisis in America, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. Overdose. Yeah. I mean, anyway, we're talking about fentanyl and OxyContin and oxycodone or whatever, all these opioids. And there are just a shitload of people in this country dying from this stuff. And it's all just allowed by the bureaucrat, big pharma companies. It's nonsense, man. Thank you, Entropic, by the way, for presumably copy and pasting the definition of entropy. I definitely had to Google what entropy was not too long ago. But anyway, the opioid fucking crisis is crazy, man. Oh, that's nice of you to say, Walter White. I do not feel bad asking people to support my channel. It does cost money. And you know what, guys? I do want to mention all of the Women's March stuff, all of the videos, demonetized by YouTube. No ad revenue from those. So if you're able to help, that's so awesome. Anything counts. I am trying to save up and get some new equipment, but Beacom of Light, paypal.me/Beacom of Light. I have a Patreon, Beacom of Light as well. But I'm all over the place. I'm glad you guys are here. The opioid crisis is just nuts right now, and barely anyone is talking about it. And it just seems like, I think I saw a T-shirt a while back, and it was, oh, by the way, now you can see that I have hair. I do. It exists under my Smurf hat. But with the opioid crisis in this country, you have the big pharmaceutical companies that have cornered this market, and their dealers are the doctors, and they have politicians in their pockets, meaning they pay these lobbyists to go and filibuster a fucking a tiny little Senate hearing or whatever that might that where the legislature is to ban fentanyl or something like that, or even less difficult a process. Or they just go to fucking dinner and they say, hey, Congressman X, Senator Z, I'm going to give you a little gift, quote unquote, and you're going to make sure that all of our opiates, all of our heroin remains legal, and we get the American people hooked on this shit. Now, is it all malicious? Is it all one way or the other? I don't know, but it's certainly concerning, and I wish more people would talk about what's happening here. Jay Chill says, do you know why they got demonetized? I do not. I'm going to assume that, well, I shouldn't say I don't know for sure, but I'm going to assume it's just because in the tags and in the descriptions I've put things like Islam or Palestine or like transgender rights and so on, and basically any of these little buzzwords, they're flagged immediately by YouTube, and I'm sure the algorithms have noted that I've had previous videos demonetized, so they're all after that shit. Yeah, Walter White, they have, man. Society is subject to entropy. God, I remember when I read the definition for entropy, my brain died momentarily. Be Good Alex asks, do you like Milo Yiannopoulos? So I think that Milo, I don't want to go on a whole diatribe about Milo, but yes and no. I think that certain things he says are funny. I appreciate someone who, from a comedic standpoint, pushes buttons and pushes the boundaries. My favorite comedian, one of my favorite comedians is George Carlin, rest in peace. Considering he was an atheist, I think. But, George Carlin, people like him. There's a guy, Anthony Jeselnik, who I think is pretty funny nowadays. Bill Burr. Some of these comedians are, they're pushing the boundaries of comedy. And I think Milo is one of them. I think the difference between Milo and actual stand-up comics is obviously the venue in which he does it. So he's gained popularity by being provocative at colleges and institutions where people are generally taken more seriously if you're speaking at places like that. And I think that's where the sort of mutation of making fun of something and doing it with satire and kind of with valid criticisms and logic, or at least insinuating logic through comedy, where it mutates into maybe the sort of more primitive hatred for a group of people based on their skin color, or based on their race or gender or whatever, blah blah blah. I don't think it happens often. I just think that line needs to be that line needs to be drawn a bit more, and I think Milo could do that a bit more. But you know, we're all human. It's pretty difficult. Let's see here. Yeah, well, I would say about half of my videos are demonetized. Bill Burr is the shit, by the way, Walter White. Jay Chill says, have you seen the recent Jordan Peterson interview? Yeah, I did see it. Kathy Newman. So a friend of mine on Facebook posted a different article with a different journalist interviewing someone, and he said, quote, this journalist has taken the Kathy Newman approach. And I thought to myself, after watching the Jordan Peterson interview, that the Kathy Newman approach really should be put into the DSM-5 handbook of psychological terms, because the cognitive dissonance and just utter just the utter nonsense that she was rebuting or attempting to rebuke Peterson's statements with were mind-boggling. And she basically she was almost just making Peterson look good. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Fifth Element, but it's one of my favorites from when I was younger, and it's still one of my favorites now. But there's this gigantic mass. Yeah, there we go. We have a lot in common, Mr. White. But you've got this gigantic mass in this movie, The Fifth Element, and it's this, I don't know, nuclear fucking ball or whatever in the sky, in outer space, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And at the beginning of the movie, they try and the U.S. military or whatever it is tries to blow it up by sending rockets into it, but it only feeds it and makes it bigger. And that was probably too long of an explanation as to why I think that's kind of what this Kathy Newman did with Jordan Peterson, and especially with people like us that are, I don't know, I don't want to ascribe a political ideology to everyone that's watching, but I would say that people here in this community are more in the center or closer to the center than fucking far right or far left. But yeah, she just made him more popular and good. But the scariest part about it is that she was dead serious. She was really trying to rip this guy a new one. I don't know how much research she did, but more power to Peterson, man, because even though I disagree with him on certain aspects of religiosity and so on, he's an intellectual powerhouse, and man, his calm collectedness was outstanding. And what happened? Yeah, I mean, she said, what gives you the right to say so on, such, so forth? And he just sat there and he went, I'm a clinical psychologist. And I cracked up. She said, what qualifies you to speak on psychology? And he just said, I'm a clinical fucking psychologist. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. This is awesome. I had some other things I wanted to talk about. The Women's March just in general. I have been playing for a while as far as guitar goes, Walter White. But, I wanted to talk about the Women's March for a bit. A lot. I don't know if it was Sam Harris that said this, but a lot of people are right for the wrong reasons, and a lot of people are wrong for the right reasons. And I think that a lot of the people at the Women's March were wrong for the right reasons. So what I definitely don't want people to do that disagree with them, what I don't want people that disagree with the attendees of the Women's March to do is to express some of the same vitriol and hatred and disgust with them as many of them would do with people who are either Trump supporters or just against this idea of social justice and cultural Marxism and so on. But a lot of the people there were they just were misinformed. I mean, you guys saw it in the videos. A lot of very young people thinking that they're standing up for the right thing. I probably would have been one of them had I not purposely set out to expose myself to different types of political ideologies and viewpoints and logic and reason. And I started reading philosophy when I was in my teens, and that was what really pushed me towards skepticism and just questioning pretty much everything. One of my favorite quotes is Timothy Leary: "Think for yourself, question authority." I would just say question everything. But I think the best way to try and get some logic into these people's brains is to do what I did. I put on a button. Some people were handing out these fucking buttons. I took one. I put it on. Some girl handed me a rose. I took it and I put it in my ear. I tried to fit in with these people a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I agree with them on plenty of things. But the guard was taken down. It was kind of like, I don't know. It was just a disguise. I was a double agent at that point. But I'm not. I don't consider myself to be on the other side. Like, I'm not a far right Trump person. And to be honest with you, I don't know how many of those people really exist. Like far right Trump people. I bet you could pretty much get anyone to condemn any person who voted for Trump. I would say a large majority of them that voted for Trump to condemn his rhetoric and probably criticize certain things. But one thing I disagree with Trump on is the furthering of ties with Saudi Arabia, for example. I think that whole area of the Mideast that preaches an ideology that fundamentally and inherently despises the West and freedom essentially needs to be cut dry. So if we can become energy independent and get off of their oil teat, maybe we can do that. Entropic. Men have higher IQs and people with higher IQs make more money. Yeah, one thing Peterson pointed out in... thank you for the compliments, guys, by the way. But one thing Peterson pointed out is that if you take the Nordic countries, for example, Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, those three countries have essentially done more than any other countries to make gender equality at the forefront of their laws, right? For 30, 40, 50 years now. So what you've seen the most gender freedom out of any other country in the world, maybe possibly even ever. And you see that 20-1, there are 20 men for every one female engineer. And there are 20 female nurses for every one male nurse. So, you really would have to let the experiment run quite a bit longer to have any sort of information that would prove that men and women don't make different decisions based on it's just innate sort of decisions based on their gender disposition. I mean, it's not everybody, and he pointed that out in the interview as well. I said, it's like there are women that get paid more than men in the world. It exists. I can name 4 of my female friends that get paid way more than me. Donate to Beacom of Light. Support the channel, paypal.me/Beacom of Light. Give me all your ducats. But anyway, so yeah, Peterson was awesome, man. Really, really great. He is a... If you have a hard time dismantling some of the arguments from the left and the cultural Marxism and so on, watch Jordan Peterson. I know I certainly have a hard time dismantling it sometimes. Women under 30 make considerably more than men under 30. Yeah, and that's another thing about feminism. It's like there are a lot of things that men have it way worse in the world than women. Like the suicide rate is like, I don't know, 80% men. Don't quote me on that one, but the workplace violence, workplace deaths, the prison system, it's fucking 90, how much 90, I think it's 93% men, 7% female. I think one thing that Peterson has pointed out, or maybe it was someone else, is like women are generally, on average, more level-headed than men, and that's why you have way more male morons, and I'm talking like clinical morons in the world, but you also have more male geniuses in the world, and women tend to be towards the middle of the spectrum as far as IQ goes and so on, or maybe not necessarily IQ, but I don't know what the terminology would be, but yeah, man, there's so much that we need to discover and talk about, and what I see a lot from the left now is just to shut down the argument. They're right, you're wrong. That's what they're thinking. It happens on both sides, don't get me wrong, but clearly with the Women's March the other day, that's what they're displaying en masse. Not all of them. I had plenty of good conversations with people. But, at the end of it, generally the conversations end in a sort of awkward, thing. Entropic, yeah. It's actually refreshing to have a loudmouthed asshole as president. It's, I can understand why it is refreshing, We're not at war with North Korea yet. That's good. We'll see. Entropic. Okay. Entropic says there's a 90% chance that I'll vote for Trump in 2020. And I'm a leftist. I would say just talk to your leftist friends, man. Talk to them and spell things out. And tell them that you're a leftist. That's one of the real trials of this century is there's so many people on the left eating their own. I consider myself like a classical libertarian. Be Good Alex says, what are your thoughts on the Chelsea Manning fiasco? So I heard something about Chelsea Manning going to a far-right party or something like that. I'm not too sure about that, but you'd have to be more specific. Like, are you talking about that specifically, some incident, or are you talking about just the gender identity or the treason? Which one is it? Again, thank you guys for joining in on this, man. You guys are awesome. Again, if you guys have any song requests, let me know. If you request something that I cannot play, I will just by default play Green Day. No, that I will not do. I do not like Green Day. Did I hear the Sam Harris Jordan Peterson podcast? Yeah, I heard both of them. The second one. So first of all, it's so dense that for a layman like myself, I would probably have to listen to it again, especially considering all the information that I've taken in since those podcasts came out. But I remember the first one, unfortunately, a little bit more than the second podcast with Sam Harris. Jordan Peterson seemed to kind of end up going around in circles, and I don't. Yeah, again, I'd really have to listen to them again to comment about them. But I wish they would have another long form conversation. I believe they are. And I'm excited about that. I think maybe someone like a Dave Rubin or someone needs to mediate or mediate, right? Fuck, I'm tired. I can't think of the right words. But I think there needs to be someone like an Eric Weinstein or I don't know. There needs to be someone else there that can try and solidify someone's argument, or at least say it in layman's terms. What do I think about Linda Sarsour as a feminist? It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, if you don't know her, which I would assume many of you do, is a real feminist. She was a victim of female genital mutilation in Somalia as a child. She escaped an arranged marriage in her teens, or early 20s or something, and she moved to Holland, where she proceeded to go to university, learn multiple different languages. She became she took a seat on the Dutch Parliament, and was a senator and whatever they call them in Holland, a politician. And then she moved to the U.S. She's a member of the Harvard Kennedy Center or whatever it is. She's a real rags to riches underdog. Fucking, she's an idol of mine. She's very well spoken. She's very pleasant, and she speaks essentially nothing but logic and truth about Islam, radical Islam, and feminism. Linda Sarsour made the comment that people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Bridget Gabriel, whom I know a bit, should have their vaginas taken away. Now, you cannot be a feminist and say something like that, especially to a woman who underwent female genital mutilation. So, Linda Sarsour, if you're watching, fuck you, and just stop. Stop pretending. You are trying to push Sharia. You are trying to normalize Islam in the West, and frankly, I will not be tolerant of intolerance and stand there and watch you do that. Just not going to happen, because I'm American. I love this country, even with all its flaws, and I stand behind freedom, democracy, freedom of speech, equal rights, human rights, and Islam inherently allows zero of that. So fuck you, Linda Sarsour. Let's see here. Yeah, people to the point. Oh yeah. Oh, it's really saddening, isn't it? Walter White says people who point to Linda Sarsour as a feminist instead of Ayaan Hirsi Ali are. Well, I can't remember what you said, but yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it absolutely is. It's saddening, and she really did a great job, Linda Sarsour, of capitalizing on the identity politics of the left and sliding right on in as under the guise of a feminist, even though what it seems like to many people is that she's just blatantly committing taqiyya, which is the Muslim the part of the Quran that allows for, or maybe it's the Hadiths, I can't remember, but that allows for people to lie. Dude, Sydney says, dude, I gotta bounce. Thanks for this. Would you mind following me back on Twitter? Sure. I want to hook you up with another YouTuber. All I want to do is grow and collaborate with everyone, Sydney. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, if you're able to donate through PayPal.me/Beacom, like, God, I feel like such a schlub when I say that every time, but that would be great. If not, leave a like, all that good stuff. Subscribe. I really appreciate you watching. So take care, Sydney. So I definitely also want to hear some suggestions from you guys. Like, is there anything coming up in the country? Luckily, with my current day job, it's pretty flexible. I can travel. Like, let me know what you guys think I should do. I've been doing a lot of stand-up comedy recently, which is really, really difficult. But I think I'm fucking hysterical. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about what's coming up in 2018. Opioid crisis, nuclear politics. And let me know what you guys think about cryptocurrency as well. I know a lot of people are talking about that. I have a little bit of Ethereum. If anyone feels like donating any of their Bitcoin, I'll probably just go ahead and say that you're an idiot. If you're going to donate any of your Bitcoin, you should hold on to it. I'll check for your comedy if it makes it too. Yeah, so essentially, Walter White, my plan is to start a meth business. Yeah. No, my plan is to tweak and perfect my stand-up and then take it on the road. And I'm in tight with a comedy club here where a lot of people, a lot of pretty popular comics have come out of, like, Tracy Morgan from 30 Rock and Saturday Night Live was at the club that I worked for not too long ago, and the list goes on and on and on. But my plan is to fine-tune my comedy and then take it on the road. So I'll definitely be uploading a lot of videos that are more comedy-centered, and I will be touring eventually, and I'll let everyone know dates, and I want you guys to let me know where you are in the world, and then I can come out and do that. Tracy Morgan, yeah, as a stand-up comic, I actually don't like his comedy. I think he's funny on 30 Rock, but Scott Wilson, just a name that I was throwing out there. He's pretty popular. Anyway. Yeah, that's a good idea, Entropic. Start asking people for details on what policies they like and dislike. Yeah, I agree with that. When am I coming to Canada? So I did a video with Lauren Southern, who you guys may know. And it's on my channel if you guys want to check it out. In Canada. So we went up to the Canadian border, the Quebec-US border. I think we were in Vermont, and at the time, this was right after Trump had made comments about allowing the program that allowed Haitians that were affected by the disaster in Haiti to stay here to diminish. I think it had a timeline anyway, so it was going to go out. Kind of like DACA, which is another thing a lot of people at the Women's March didn't know. Like, DACA was going to end, and then Trump wanted to try and instill something permanently. But anyway, we went up to the border there and did some filming, and we talked to some police at the Montreal Police Department about thousands of Haitians that were crossing the border. I think something like 2,500 Haitians had crossed the border into Canada, and they were doing it illegally, but purposely. And the laws are so lax where they're not going to arrest you and you're going to jail and you're being cuffed. They'll arrest you technically, even though they don't put cuffs on you, and then they say, come fill this out. And you spend about 4 to 8 hours every day, and then you're pretty much on your way to citizenship in Canada. It was pretty interesting. But I guess it would depend on where in Canada you're talking about. I'd love to go up there, but if you misgender someone up there, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill C-17, as Jordan Peterson knows very well, will come down on you hard, and you will be fined, or whatever it is. Fucking scary, man. Scary, scary, scary. H. Shingo says, have you been to Germany? Yeah, man. I was in Munich, München, and Bayern not too long ago, back in, I think it was October, and it was, I like beer, so I had a good time there, as far as beer goes, but I was essentially astounded how many hijabs I saw over and over again, and burqas even more so. Not that, I think that those people are evil necessarily, but what it's showing is this mass migration of Muslims into Germany, which we all know about, and it's will over time eventually change the culture. I don't know if these people as individuals are necessarily bad people. I presume that most of them are not, so tired. Most of them are not bad people. It's the culture that it breeds over time, and the increasing of the odds of atrocity and Islamic terror. It's not a disputed fact that the more Muslims in an area, the more chances of Islamic terror there are going to be. So, Germany was I was a bit shell-shocked when I was there. And that was just in Munich. I'm sure in Berlin it's a whole different story. I know that there's a large community of Turks in Berlin, and there has been for years and years. But I don't think the Turks are necessarily the ones to worry about. We're talking about North African Muslims, East African Muslims, Sudan, Somalia. I mean, there's so many people that are going into Europe right now pretending to be refugees, and they're from fucking Sudan, and it's like, Sudan is not a great place to live, no doubt. Some might call it a shithole, but it's also not Syria. It's not Raqqa. There aren't bombs over Sudan So the idea that these people are refugees is crazy. But yeah, man, I mean, Angela Merkel, what a shame, what a shame. And on a lot of other policies, she seemed like she was pretty strong. I don't know too much, but you're from Hamburg, yeah, in the north of Germany. Yeah, you know, it is kind of funny that you have countries that are notoriously liberal, like the Nordic countries, as I mentioned before, and they're just like slowly being changed into a completely different place where more mosques are popping up on a day-to-day basis. You know, and now and what you will eventually see is Muslims being voted into the political systems there. And then what happens when you have a majority Muslim country? Well, guess what? Then you start seeing what you see in places like Iran and Iraq and fucking Yemen and Saudi Arabia, and the list goes on, Pakistan. You see a theocracy. You see a religion instilled as the law, the rule over the land. Sharia, which means law in Arabic. You know, and then you see like a fucking Iran, man. Oh, by the way, I do want to mention to you guys all right. Yeah, some of you left, which makes sense, but I had a little interruption there. But I just wanted to mention that I have coming up on my channel a long-form interview with a friend of mine and a guy who's incredibly knowledgeable about what's going on in the Middle East, just in general, let alone his country of heritage, Iran. So I'm excited to have him. We already did the interview, and it's long, but I'm excited because I want you guys to if you want a better understanding as to what's happening in Iran right now, I'll be releasing an interview that I did with a really good friend of mine, an Iran analyst and just all around good dude, coming out pretty soon. Sorry about the interruption there, guys, but it is getting a little bit late. Yeah, sorry, man, the connection can be bad sometimes. I apologize, guys. But listen, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching my channel. You know, I've had the channel for about a year, and my plan is to get better and better and better. And I'm in for the long haul. You know, it doesn't change overnight, but I'd like to think that the quality of my videos have gotten slightly better since I started a year ago. But you know, what really helps. Walter White says, "I thought you pissed off the algorithm." Yeah, probably. I was talking about Islam, and then fucking the PC police over at YouTube, all those stinky social justice warrior libs over at YouTube. And I'm kidding, but not really. They pulled the plug. Hi, YouTube. If they're pulling the plug on a channel with 8 fucking people in the live stream, that's 7. You've got better things to do, YouTube. And that goes back to what I was saying. You guys are awesome. There are a few of you now. Hopefully you'll grow and grow and grow. Share the videos, leave a like, blah, 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 blah. All that good stuff. If you're able to donate, paypal.me/Beacom of Light. Anything helps. I am trying to get some new equipment. But yeah, you guys are fucking awesome, man. So I'm going to wrap up pretty shortly, but if you guys have any song requests, let me know. Maybe I'll try and play something. So I actually play a lot of metal and sort of heavier rock music. I normally play on my electric guitar. Beat It by Michael Jackson. Yeah, I don't know. Walter White says, "I normally don't like, comment, or interact with YouTube." Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, if you have any more questions, Walter, let me know. Waltzer. I keep saying Walter. Is it, so it's not Waltzer. Is it like, it's not like Walther PPK, like James Bond's gun. Lana Del Rey? I don't know of any of her songs. Just a play on the name, yeah, that makes sense. Satriani has a new CD out. I'm not at Satriani level yet, my man. Yeah, he's pretty wild, and I don't think I could do that on my acoustic. Let me see. I'm in drop D. Rage Against the Machine. Yngwie Malmsteen. You know, I have a buddy from the West Coast who's like an insanely sick guitar player, and he plays in a metal band, and he's a big fan of Yngwie Malmsteen. That guy was like notoriously drunk just all the time. Yeah, man. Yeah, throw me a bunch of likes, man. That's awesome. Oh, you guys are so great. So one of the... Can I play the Godfather tune again? Oh, you've seen it? And then this is from The Godfather 2 when they go to Sicily. Like that tremolo picking, that sort of thing. They only did that in the second one, yeah. Do I know any death? Do you mean death metal or the band? I think there's a band called Death. Neither of which, the answer would be no to both of them for the most part. With the titty bitty tits. I don't know. Is that Lana Del Rey? I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what's happening. Let me see what I can leave you guys with. Is there a PayPal theme song? Okay, so go ahead and unsubscribe after that joke, I'm sure. How about Tenacious D? Play the best song in the world, or I'll eat your soul. I don't think I can play that whole song, but yeah, Tenacious D's good. Jack Black, talented guy. Won't you take me far away from the monkey mark? Do I know how to play any Sublime? You know, I did when I was younger. What are their songs like? She didn't want to. What is that? That song's called Date Rape. I will not be playing that one. Sublime. I can't remember. Can't remember any Sublime, dude. I'm bad. I shouldn't have asked for guitar requests. Never seen Jack Black play an instrument? Tenacious D. You gotta check out Tenacious D. He plays, man. He plays guitar. He's pretty good. Do I write songs myself? I do. I've written a couple things. I want to meet the right people to form a band with, but it's pretty difficult in New York City, surprisingly. It's difficult. Like, I play drums a little bit as well, and it's pretty difficult because we're living on top of each other in the city, so good luck having an acoustic drum kit in an apartment. It's just not going to happen. I had an electric drum kit when I first moved here, and even that, just the bass drum, the kick drum, would annoy people. So, you know, it's pretty difficult. You have to have, like, you go to a rehearsal space. If you have a kit, you bring it there to play, unless you have a really decent setup somewhere. But it's difficult. Yeah, I've written a couple things. I wrote, most of the stuff I've written is on electric. But I'll play a little bit of something I just wrote a couple weeks ago. Ooh, a little out of tune. Oh, and by the way, donate through paypal.me/Beacom of Light. Then I can get some new strings and a new guitar and really entertain you guys. Yeah. Doesn't sound very good on acoustic. Some of it does, but then the parts later. Anyway. Have I thought about setting up a Patreon account? Yeah, you know, I have one. Patreon.com/Beacom of Light. But I've devoted very little attention to it. But I should, man. I've got a lot to do. You know, it's New York City. I'm on the grind on the daily, and there's so much on my mind, man. This fucking world is crazy. But I'm gonna wrap it up. I want to thank you guys again for joining the live stream. The few, the proud, the Marines. Nothing I just said applies to you guys. Just wanted to give a shout out to the Marines. So I'd prefer PayPal. Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is, like, if you're able to just do whatever, you know, you guys are super nice. Nice beanie. Thank you very much. I was going for the Smurf look today. I guess if Trump were to wear a condom, this is probably the one he'd want. That's kind of derogatory, but whatever. And that was a stupid joke with the orange thing, but, you know, whatever. I don't give a shit. United States Air Force, cool, man. Oh, let me get your quick thought on Stolen Valor, because I've been really interested in that for a while. So, you know, I've been admiring the military in general for a long time, and, you know, when I was younger, I wanted to join and blah blah blah, and, you know, I just couldn't muster up the balls to do it. Plus, you know, I wanted to do other things, obviously, but I respect the military greatly, and it bothers me when I see people that are most likely faking and pretending that they were in the military and committing an act of stolen valor, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. There's a shitload of YouTube videos about it where people are called out. I'd love to just get your opinion on if I were to do a video about that, because there's quite a few guys that I see, homeless people on a regular basis in the city that claim they're vets. And there's one guy that walks around that I see all the time when I go to work that wears the whole outfit, and he walks around with a clipboard, and he's got to be in his 50s, and he plays the part. I'll tell you that much. He's got good posture, you know, he's clean shaven, and I'm pretty sure he's done his research, but there's no way he's walking around Times Square. And anyway, I'd like to give you guys' thoughts on a Stolen Valor video, or kind of like a documentary style thing into it, and just find out, you know, why people do it, but also, more importantly, give credence to our military. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are fucking awesome. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave all the comments you can, because that's something I look forward to more than anything, except for the ones that tell me to fuck off. Those aren't very fun, but I get very few of those. Saw Liars when I was in, and Heroes that I still hang out with now. Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Hey, you guys are so awesome. Take care. You know, let me know what you think about the future. donate through the PayPal that I've mentioned a million times, and I'm sorry because I know you're annoyed by it. But you guys are awesome. Okay, ciao.